What is up, everybody? Thanks for stopping by. Today, we're talking about how to build off grid and what you should build off grid. We're going to dive into what type of build you should build, where you should build, where you should look, stuff like that to kind of give you just kind of an idea of what to look for if you're planning on doing something like this. But first, I want to say I apologize for the off the grid series being kind of on pause. So I've been doing a lot of work on the build, but my cameras keep overheating. So the GoPros overheat, my phone, which is one of the main things I use out there, overheats. And I'll set it up to record me doing something, and 30 seconds, 3 minutes in, it dies, and I don't get the film. So I'm still plugging away at it, but the content just isn't flowing full scale like I wish it could be. It's been feeling like 106 here in Texas for the last few weeks, and it's not doing too well on my gear. If you have any ideas or tips and tricks on how to keep my equipment cool, I would love to know how you guys would do that. If you want to let me know in the comments, I'd appreciate the help so I can start filming again. So that's why I haven't. But if you guys do want to follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I post more short form content there so you can still follow along with the progress of the build. So without any more wasted time, let's dive into how to build an off-grid build. Okay, so there's a couple different versions of an off-grid. So like, what does off-grid actually mean? In my opinion, and this is purely my opinion, I feel like off-grid means that it's self-sustainable outside of the electrical grid of the city, and you are on a septic and you are on a well. So basically, you're not paying the city for your electric, your water, or your septic or your sewage. That to me is off-grid. So I mean, that could be 1 mile out of town, 2 miles out of town, 100 miles out of town. Overall, it's about you being self-sufficient. That's what I think off-grid means to me. Now, a lot of people categorize off-grid as minimalist. I'm not a minimalist. I like nice things. I like having my wet bar. I like having my espresso maker. I love that type of stuff. So when I'm talking about off the grid, I'm talking about more of a luxury off-grid, right? We're building something that's going to be dope, that's going to be relaxing, that's going to be just super badass, and not like, the cabin in the woods with, a fireplace and a blanket. Like, we're going to actually be doing some modern technology, some nice high-end finishes, because off the grid does not mean off the luxury, right? So just want to preface that with, that's my style of off the grid. Everyone has their own specific definition or what they're looking for. Maybe they're trying to be off the grid minimalist, which is just bare minimums. Or they're trying to be luxury off the grid, which is more of what I'm doing. So now that we got that out of the way, we're going to talk about a few things. And there's not necessarily a particular order to what I'm going through, but overall, you'll kind of find the organic order of what needs to come first. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I already tell you my answer on that. It was the chicken, because God didn't create eggs. He created chickens. But if you don't believe in God, then maybe the egg came first. I don't know. Anyway, first things first, you got to find your land. Now, I have a couple of suggestions on when you're looking for land. Find something that is out of town but not too far, because in the end, no matter how self-sufficient you are, you're still going to need supplies and resources from town, and you don't want to be driving 3-4 hours into a town. Now, for me, I chose a smaller town and was outside of that town, but that inevitably puts me about an hour and 30 minutes from a major town, or a major city. So that's another option. If you want to go to a town that has maybe 2,000 in population, and then you're about a mile and a half out of that town, that's technically pretty far out there, because if you want to go to any of the big amenities, it's going to be another hour drive or so. So keep that in mind. Off the grid doesn't always have to be completely way out of town where people are driving on dirt roads for 2 hours. So just keep that in mind. The next thing that I would say is make sure your build is fairly accessible, because if it's not, you're just adding dollar signs on dollar signs on dollar signs. Now, if you have the ability to cut your own path, create your own roads, by all means do so. But overall, if you're just looking to try to be efficient and be off the grid and not take out $1 million loan, make sure your build site is accessible. The second part to this is make sure you have an alternate exit. Now, this isn't necessary. This isn't something that you have to have, but coming from being born and raised in California and now building off the grid here in Texas, there are a lot of fires. Fires move quickly. If you are on an off-grid build, you're not paying attention to your phone, and then you look up in the sky and then there's smoke, and the fire is coming from your exit, you don't have another way out. So I like to, have 2 ways of exit if need be. Obviously, there's some houses that are up on a hill and you only got one way in, one way out. I guess you do what you do. But in the end, I think it's smart to have at least maybe an emergency alternative exit, even if it was something with a Polaris or quad or just some way to get off of the land and get out of the area if something like a fire were to happen. So that's just, that's not necessary. That's just something that to keep in mind. The next thing is, let's see here, water. Make sure your land has water on it because you're going to be dependent on your land for everything you need. So if you're buying land, make sure there's some type of water in the ground. Make sure you have mineral rights, with which most land will come with that. Make sure you're able to tap into the water under your property. And also another thing, I know this happens in California, make sure there's no one, no large, company that's tapping into that same water table and sucking out all your water for some type of city or whatever. Make sure you have something that you can actually maintain and utilize and not worry about running dry if there were to be some sort of a drought. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you have water on your land. The next thing is buy trees. I buy trees before I buy land. There's a ton of land out here. It's a cheap land, flat land, farmland. I don't want that land. I want topography. I want mounds. I want hills. I want valleys. I want trees. I want shade. Make sure you're not just buying a piece of land because it's cheap and then you build a house and then you're in direct sunlight 24 hours. Like it's not, well, obviously not 24 hours because the sun goes down, but you know what I'm talking about. Buy trees. Trees, I mean, that's the number one thing you want to look for. You want to have organic shade. It's very important, especially when it comes to livestock and other aspects of your off-grid build. The next aspect, which is kind of something that you can obtain over time, but you need to be handy. And that's not just in construction, but that's with wildlife. That's with, things like compost or chickens, cows. Do you hunt? What is it that you're going to use this land for? If you're not capable of doing it, don't think you're just going to move out there, buy land, build a house, and then all of a sudden just like know how to do everything. You need to know what it comes with when you drill a well. What maintenance do you have to do? If something were to happen with your house, how do you get everything back online? How do you get your solar panels figured out? If a tree gets blown into your house or on top of your car, do you have a chainsaw? Are you able to like remove the tree and still be able to function? Stuff like that, which a lot of people don't think about because you think about being in town where there aren't as many variables, and if something happens, you just call your friend Bob or you call the fire department. If you're off the grid and you're out in the middle of nowhere, they're not going to come out there and do much for you. So you need to be able to handle almost all situations that are thrown at you. So just keep that in mind when you're getting ready to go off grid, or if maybe you want to do off grid a little bit closer to town, that's an option as well. Let's see what is the next one that we got going on here. So I would suggest buying, depending on where you're at, check where you're at. See how many acres you need in order to be able to hunt and in order to be able to shoot guns. So, for example, counties vary here in Texas, but in the specific county that we're in, I believe it's 9 or 8 acres, I believe. But most counties are 10 acres in order for you to hunt and shoot firearms. So, for example, if you want to stock your freezer with some whitetail or whatever is roaming your land, and you want to get your tags or whatever is required in your area to get, whatever is roaming on your land, make sure you get enough acreage to where you actually can apply for those and receive those so you can hunt on your land if that's what you're looking for, because there is a minimum of acreage that that you can hunt on. And if you go below that, then you're excluded, and it doesn't matter what you try to apply for, you're not going to be able to. So that's something that, I would definitely look into if that's what you're interested in. And the next thing is how self-sustainable are you trying to be? Are you trying to do garden? Are you trying to be completely self-sustainable? Are you trying to, completely be removed from the grid? If that's the case, you need to focus on building an efficient home. So I think the first thing that I would say is probably the most important before you start building, after finding your land and figuring all that out, is building an efficient home. I see so many people out there building off the grid homes, and they're building them almost minimalist, like bare minimums, cheapest way possible. And I don't really understand. I get money's a factor by all means. Money, it always comes down to your budget. What is your budget? But in the end, if you want to be fully off the grid and really live a good life with solar, your home needs to be efficient. You can't have a home envelope that's got leaks where you're losing heat in the winter and you're losing cool in the summer. And then your AC units keep kicking on, or you're just sweltering in the summer, or you're freezing in the winter. if you spend the extra money and spend the extra time to build a very efficient home with great insulation value, with great roofing products, with great foundation insulation, that's going to set you up to where you can actually live off of solar fully without having to cut back on, like, hey, we don't turn lights on or we don't use any electronics during the day and we spare electricity at night. If you have an efficient home, you're going to be able to stock up some of that electricity and utilize it and kind of live a more normal life rather than living this, off the grid, living in the dark type thing. So try and build the most efficient home. As you guys can see through my channel, I'm building a very efficient home, insulation on insulation on insulation, conditioned attics so that we're maintaining a very tight seal. Our air quality is going to be great. Focus on doing that. It's going to help you in the long run. It's going to make you a lot more comfortable as you live in this home. And that kind of segues into what type of build should you build off grid. Now, I would say right off the bat, post frame. You're going to want to build a post frame off grid. One, it's very versatile when it comes to the layout of your land. If you're on a hill, if you're on a slope, even if you're on flat land, if you're in any type of floodplain, you're going to want to build a post frame so that you can lift your house up off the ground. The next thing is you're going to be in the middle of kind of nowhere. You're going to have a lot of insects, snakes, animals. So if you can build your house off the ground a few feet, it's going to kind of deter some of those insects from just being able to walk right into your house. For example, if you had a slab, obviously sealing your home is the most important, but I do think that you're going to want to go pier and beam 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10 if you're building off grid. The next thing is it's very easy. You don't have to get concrete trucks back there. It's a simple 1 to 2 man operation, so you can get it done with you and a buddy, or you can do it like me and do it by yourself. I wouldn't recommend that, but it gives you the ability to build without having a huge crew or a bunch of trucks come out to you. The next aspect of it is you're going to, depending on where you live, I would try to go above a 4 or 5 pitch, because anything below a 4 or 5 pitch is going to be difficult when it comes to tree branches falling on you. If you're building on trees, they're not going to slough off as well. If you live in high snow load, it's going to kind of sit on your roof a little bit more, which makes it really tough on your build as it is. So just overall, I like to have a higher pitch, especially when you're out kind of a little ways, mainly only for the reason is just keeps you off your roof, keeps things off your roof. Everything kind of flows properly. You have to worry about less leaks. The water sheds a lot quicker and easier. So that's just kind of a personal preference there. The last aspect of it is I would start small. So with pier and beam, you have the ability to add on to your home down the road. So if you want a 2,000 square foot home, I would tackle 1,000 square feet, build a little 1,000 square foot build, and then just make it to where you have the ability to add on to it later. I know a lot of people that will dive into these large builds that are off grid. They'll get overwhelmed because it's the first time they've done it, and they have to stop, and then they end up, spending 3 years when it could have been done in 1 year. So start small and just leave your plans to where they have a little, wiggle room to where you can add on something later, but you already have a nice home to live in as you do that. It puts you out there on the land and makes you comfortable to be able to build a larger home over time. And then other than that, that's kind of the kind of things that just pop into my head when I think about building off grid, is just really focusing on efficiency of your build. That's huge. I would have to say that's number one, the efficiency of your build. And then obviously location. Build where you want, where you feel safe, where you feel protected, where you feel like you're going to get whatever. If you're looking for more gardening and farming, where you're going to get nutrients in your soil, make sure you have water in your soil, make sure you have shade for any livestock that you have. You don't want to be building, a bunch of things for your livestock. You want to be able to have them have natural shade. So overall, I hope that helps somebody. Those are just a kind of couple of things that I went through before purchasing the land that we're building our house on. And yeah, again, guys, the episodes will be coming back to you guys soon. Everything's basically sealed up. The next step is going to be getting roof installed, getting insulation installed, running electrical, stuff like that. We're getting there. We're moving. Hopefully I can get some film done for you guys without all my equipment overheating. But overall, guys, that's all I got for you today. I appreciate you stopping by. If you haven't already, I would appreciate you subscribing, liking this video, ringing the bell. It helps me out a lot. It helps me keep creating this content. And I will see you guys in the next one. Much love.